I'm Nicola Tallant, and you're listening to Crime World, a podcast about criminals, drugs, and the sins of the underworld. We're Ireland's top podcast for 2025, and now we've got a new website. So if you want to learn more about crime and criminals, if you want stories, extras, and podcast subscriber specials, go to www.crimeworld.com.
So 1 week of crimeworld.com, well, not a full week even. And already
feels like a year. It doesn't hit that.
No, not for me. I'm delighted.
Oh, you're full of. You're ever allowed to say it on Carmella. You're full of shit, Niall Donald. You were telling me how tired you were the other day.
Touch tired, Eimear, I will admit.
Tired. Been busy.
Obviously, people will be aware we launched a new site, crimeworld.com. Some of it behind a subscription wall, some of it free. But we're just going to go through. I thought it'd be interesting just to go through a run through of some of the stories that did best for us, you know, because it actually does show what people are interested in.
Of course, yeah.
Like it has, yeah, it's been a bit manic, I have to admit, you know.
Yeah, well, you've been sort of down here filling in for Nicola. You've been very busy, but upstairs has been you come back and I've had steam coming out of my ears.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know you say I'm cranky, but like this
I wouldn't say that.
I think it was justified.
I did say that publicly.
You told me that publicly.
Well, I said it in a jovial tone.
Yeah, but this week I think I could be justified in being cranky, could I?
Well, I suppose you possibly could. I mean, look, you've had a few career breaks, so you would have thought that would have kept you balanced.
Oh, I think I need another one.
Yeah. So, but look, it's great. The internet is great as an outflow.
No, it is. It's been exciting. You have that kind of a bit of more like buzz about the newsroom.
Exactly. And, you know, we're trying to do, you know, even more in-depth stories. But the data you get is great because you see what works and what people are interested in and what's not. And probably one of the biggest stories, which was one we weren't sure if it was, you know, are people going to be fascinated by this? But I think it was a great headline. It was basically about...
You did the headline?
I think I more or less managed the headline.
No, you didn't.
What? You did the final touches, but I'm like Leonardo.
I did it and then you suggested like changing one word or two. Anyway, it's fine. Doesn't matter. We sound very petty now.
I'd be like Leonardo da Vinci and you're the person stirring the paint to get it in the right colour. But I'm giving the bigger picture.
Yeah, I'm like the ghostwriter. Take all the credit. Fun.
Well, it was a team effort.
Okay.
Right? From crimeworld.com team. Well done.
Well, it's Pat who wrote the story, so let's not take too much credit.
Right, okay.
Go on.
So the story was, well, do you want to read? Do you have the headline there? But it was basically how the guards, undercover gardai, were hiding in a van disguised as Mayo fans.
Yes. As
they jumped out and carried out a raid on a GA worker.
Yeah.
Somebody who worked in Croke Park. And found probably what amounts to more or less a kilo of cocaine.
Yeah, so the headline was how Croke Park worker was caught with 70k of cocaine by gardai disguised as Mayo fans. So essentially, Adele Lawler, she was working in as a part-time receptionist in the National Handball Centre, which is in Croke Park, because obviously that's part of
the GAA.
Part of the GAA, yeah. And she lived in Ballywalk, which is like very close to Croke Park. So I suppose that was where the surveillance came in because, you know, if you lived around that area, you'd be used to seeing a lot of different fans going to Croke Park. So what happened was there was a whistleblower within the GEA who raised concerns about that seeing different people coming in or what certain things that were going on. And it was looked at by HR and GEA, and they basically came back and said that they couldn't find any activities, any drug dealing activities or any anything to do with that going on in there. But then in the meantime, so then that was responded to, and then I think other colleagues may have raised it then. So Gardaí began looking into it, and they essentially were in a caravan draped in Mayo flags outside this woman's home, and they went in and raided her house and they found 70 grand, and she was jailed. This all happened in June 2024, and Adele Lawler then was jailed for several years just last week. So that's what kind of prompted Pat to look into the story. Yeah,
I mean, she's a 57-year-old woman, so it's pretty rare that somebody of that age, I suppose, gets involved in these sorts of things.
It is, yeah. It's really strange, and I suppose like she did have different kind of
mitigating
circumstances going on that were mentioned in court about her background and stuff like that. But I suppose as the person who blew the whistle had said that it was creating a toxic work environment, that it was reducing the morale within there, and that people knew this was going on. So she did plead guilty to possession of controlled drugs, cocaine, for the purpose of sale and supplying, because obviously this is a massive amount, so it wouldn't just be for your own use. So the I guess this whistleblower originally tried to lift the lid on it, but then there was more complainants who contacted local Gardai, and then they began looking into it, and
ultimately carried out this raid and caught her. Now, the whistleblower has subsequently left. We don't know loads of details about that, but it's obviously one of those situations that well, it's if you come forward like that, it can often make working in those circumstances very, very difficult then.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Now, the whistleblower had subsequently been suspended and was suspended while Adele Lawler was being prosecuted for this case. So they were suspended for allegedly throwing water at a desk in work, and but had also made these complaints against Adele Lawler, which were followed up on, but then nothing had happened, and then obviously the Garda investigation happened after that. So there was talks going on about, I suppose, this alleged instance that the complainant was said to be involved in, and they basically settled it. So there was a financial settlement. We don't know the amount that was settled or anything like that. But Croke Park, they did come back to us with a statement last week when Pat was originally doing the story about Adele Lawler, and they said that they said that your understanding of this issue, as outlined in your email, is both incomplete and inaccurate, but they refused to make any further comment. And then when we asked in a follow-up email, like, what did they mean, they didn't respond. So that's just what their statement is at the moment.
So that was one of the big ones. Another one of so I suppose it shows what people do, like something novel in what they read. But we had a story just last week about a guy who escaped from custody. Now, a lot of the people who escape from custody, I mean, the number of people climbing over prison walls is zero, I'd say, over the last few years. But people do still escape, and it's mostly on hospital visits. Like, I drive past the Mater Hospital every day on my way to work, and there's more or less a prison van constantly outside the Mater, because people obviously are being brought to, even though that's just down the road, people are being brought there every single day for medical checkups. Very, anything even slightly elaborate, prisoners have to be brought to the hospital. So we've had a number of people escape in recent times, but mostly it's mostly sort of relatively minor criminals who are being brought to the hospitals, and they're obviously getting medical treatment, and they go on a run, go do a runner. So a guy called John Maloney, we published this story about how he escaped from custody a couple of weeks ago when he was being brought from Limerick prison. Now, life on the run obviously wasn't much fun.
No, it wasn't. And I suppose, I know you're saying minor criminals. John Maloney does have serious conviction. He's serving 4 years for a series of, he was involved in violent disorder, he was involved in assault and criminal damage, other offences like that. So he went on the run on November 12th. So he did manage 2 weeks. And as you said, he was on a hospital visit, and he escaped the custody of the guards who were looking after him. And there was a Garda manhunt underway, but basically John Maloney phoned Limerick prison and said, how do I give myself up? And a source told Patrick Connell, who had the story, he was told he could either hand himself in at his local Garda station or come back into the prison, and he decided to come back into the prison and arrived shortly before lunch. So hopefully he got his lunch that day.
It's not exactly the Shawshank Redemption, is it?
No, it's not, no. But I suppose, like I was saying to Pat, like, why would you bother doing that if you've gone to the efforts of getting out of custody? But he said, like, I suppose you don't want to be watching over your shoulder the whole time.
No, I mean, these guys, like, when they escape, like, they don't flee to Miami or something like that. Like, they tend to just hang around the local area and realise they can't collect the dole. They can't, they can't get out of the country probably because it'll set off an alarm on a passport if they book a flight. They're not major criminals that can get a fake passport and flee. No,
it's funny how everyone kind of just wants to go home, don't they?
Yeah, ultimately.
Yeah.
Now, another story that did really well, and again, I suppose it shows some of the impacts of gangland crime in Ireland, is a really shocking case in Clondalkin this week that I think now has been upgraded to attempted murder, where there was a firebomb attack that left a woman suffering very, very serious burns.
Yes. So this happened on Tuesday. So basically, a woman was in a house in Clondalkin with her partner, and the partner was the intended target of the attack. It's believed that a drugs gang were targeting him for, that he owed a debt, and they essentially went in and set, I think it was the bed that was set alight, and she suffered. We have been reporting 60% burns to her body, really, really significant burns to her body. He also suffered injuries when he tried to put out the flames. And we've been reporting that he may have been the target of a local drugs gang, but really horrific crime. And basically the news today, Ken Foy is reporting that they have upgraded it to attempted murder because, they obviously went, if you go in with, whether or not she was the intended target, if you go in with that intent to cause, fire damage to somebody, you're going to run the risk of them dying. Now, hopefully she will be okay, but she has significant injuries to her body.
Yes.
She's the partner of Francis Maguire.
Now, Francis Maguire is not he is only recently released from prison. He has a good number of convictions and has served a number of prison sentences, but really this isn't somebody who could be described as a serious player or anything of the sort. And he did make a brave attempt, I suppose, to save his partner. But this shows, I suppose, the ferocity of what can be going on the streets of Dublin. And we have seen an upsurge in this kind of, I suppose, drug debt intimidation there's been a number of cases in recent times, not least one in the Henrietta Street flats, which was particularly horrific. And again, a lot of these are not an attempt to collect huge amounts of money.
Yeah.
We're talking about a very small amount of money and very, very extreme violence being used. If with the number of gangland shootings has gone down, but some of these types of crimes are definitely on the up, and more extreme violence is being used all the time. Yeah. And we can only wish that woman well.
I just want to clarify, sorry, it was actually, she was actually set alight when she answered the door. So someone knocked on the door, a petrol was thrown on her and it was set alight. And locals reported seeing the poor woman running out of the house while her partner tried to save her life. So Francis Maguire tried to help her. And obviously the suspect just went.
Yeah, they fled on an electric bike. So again, you're showing, while the level of violence is of an extreme level, you're probably showing that these aren't particularly sophisticated criminals that are operating at a particularly high level.
No.
But it doesn't mean that the damage can't be done.
No, of course not. And I suppose it probably shows, as we've spoken before, that, the person that's doing it is probably somebody that is being instructed to collect drug debts from someone more senior. So, they're probably also in debt themselves, and they're not probably, as you said, sophisticated. They're just...
No, they're probably young fellas who are on like scooters and are paid a couple of hundred quid. I mean, it's nothing particularly major,
No. We hope she can make a recovery. It's really, really sad story.
Now, another story that did well for us was, I suppose, again, it's probably an unlikely headline to some extent, though. It's a direct quote, which is a woman described as Athlone's Carmela Soprano. And it's a case of a woman called Amy O'Connor that we've written about previously.
Yeah.
I suppose she made the national newspapers initially because she got, which was a rare sort of length of suspended sentence. It was a 7-year suspended sentence.
Yeah.
After she was caught with a huge amount of cannabis, I think it was 67,000 euros worth of cannabis. And she got this huge suspended sentence. And it kind of sparked an online debate because obviously under Irish law, we have mandatory prison sentences for people caught with more than 13,000 euros worth of drugs. And in that case, there's a mandatory sentence of 10 years.
Yeah.
Now, you can think that's right or you can think that's wrong. Now judges are given discretion to kind of veer away from that. But in this case, there was a lot of commentary because saying basically that if she had been a man, she would have been convicted. And we have the family of her ex-boyfriend speaking again this time, saying they're unhappy. Now, this case that came to court was only for something simple possession. And it had begun before she received her previous sentence. So it wouldn't activate the suspended sentence.
It wouldn't. Yeah. So Alan Sherry's been reporting on this for a while now. So he originally, as you said, it kind of raised alarms that this woman had got a 7-year suspended sentence, and he was looking into it, and then he ended up making contact with her former partner's family. So her former partner was Lee O'Neill and his brother Dermot were jailed. People might remember, I think it was a big story back in like 2011 in Venezuela for having drugs, and they were in prison there, which obviously wouldn't have been a nice conditions, but 2 years later they got out and they came home. So she was with Lee O'Neill, and they did break up 10 years ago, but tragically Lee O'Neill has since died by suicide. So essentially we did the story and we said how this woman, Amy O'Connor, had basically got a suspended sentence because she told the judge that she was being threatened with weapons and that she held the drugs because she was in fear of her life. So this family contacted us. They obviously knew her from her time with Lee O'Neill and said that's not true, that there's photos of her on social media with guns in her arm. She was a friend of the Irwin mob and Tommy Irwin, who would be involved in the drug trade and has since died. So they were basically saying that this picture that she was painting was not correct. So we did interviews with these family members, and then the case was back this week because, as you said, there was a simple charge of drugs possession, and they basically had to finalise community service being given for that, which they did. So she got community service, and the brother of Lee O'Neill again spoke to us and basically said that, as you said, he didn't think that she would be out if she was a man, that he doesn't believe this facade that she's putting on, and basically said that she continued to harass him. After this story appeared in the Sunday World, she continued to send him harassing messages, threatening messages, and basically said that she should have been locked up and that she was more involved with drugs than she has let on.
Yeah. So that's from Athlone's Carmela Soprano, which you know is how they describe her.
Yeah, that's how they described her. Yeah, basically.
There's somebody that the state describes as being, directing a criminal organisation. Sean McGovern was back in court this week. There has been, he had applied for legal aid. The judges had raised concerns about it, asking for more information. Basically saying that, he hadn't provided information on how he'd been living in Dubai, but probably almost inevitably he's been granted legal aid, a team of 4 barristers by the Special Criminal Court to defend himself in his trial for his role in connection with the murder of Noel Duca Kirwan, and also for further charges under the anti-gangland legislation.
Yeah. Like, I suppose you could argue, I know you're going to say that most people get legal aid in Ireland. I suppose if you're dealing with a murder charge as well, you're going to need a really serious legal team behind you. So I guess, but a lot of people are going to be saying, was he not living in Daniel Kinahan's mansion?
Well, exactly. But I suppose if he has no assets in this country, and that's what the state have to go on, and people have a right to be defended, particularly in a trial involving a murder charge where, you're going to be, if convicted, you're going to be given an automatic life sentence. And this week we heard that it was approved, and Justice Corran O'Connor said this, in circumstances where the state was making no observation, the court would have to take information submitted by McGovern at face value. So they're saying they I suppose that they can't, they have to take what is before them. They can't suppose that he has this money, that they have to take it at face value, that he says he doesn't have assets in this country and he's not, he has an entitlement to a defence. And his counsel, McGovern's defence counsel, Michael Bowman, said that his client had filled out and signed a further application for legal aid, and he said the paperwork sets out McGovern's personal and immediate circumstances, adding that McGovern had clarified certain issues in the new form. So I suppose in another way it means that this trial will move on. Miss Justice O'Connor said it was likely to be a complex trial, and the court was conscious of the fact that we want this matter to move on. So I suppose what you're going to see is that this trial will, during the height of, I suppose, the prosecutions for the Hutchkin feud, and there was also a number of dissident figures coming up. All of these cases were coming to the Special Criminal Court, and there was a very long wait. Now, that probably means that court is not as packed as it was, and it could mean that we're likely to see McGovern trial probably quicker than the couple of years that it was taking at some point.
Do you think we'll see it next year?
Well, it's hard to know.
Yeah.
So the way justice moves is complex, to say the least.
Yeah.
And of course, other legal issues could arise in terms of disclosure. Various matters like that how they arise or what they are, we never fully understand, do we? But it's likely to be slightly more speedy than in recent times. Now, McGovern is charged with directing the activities of a criminal organisation in connection with the murder of Noel Duckay Kieran between October 2016 and December 2016. So it'll be a very interesting trial when it does come past. Yeah,
because Noel Kieran was shot dead. I remember just before Christmas. So obviously there's a couple of months there that they'll be going through.
Yeah.
So, it will go on for a while, I'd imagine.
Yeah. And, well, it's been an interesting week, Eimear.
Yeah. Oh, we didn't mention, did you talk about the gift you got from our colleague?
No, what was that? Right. What was it, a little...
You got a little mug with a familiar person's face on it.
Yes, Gerard Hutch.
Yeah.
There's been, I don't know if you saw the guy on TikTok.
Yes, I did, yeah. Apparently he's a First City actor.
But yeah, he rang up.
First City.
Yeah, and people might have seen the viral video where he rings up one of the street traders who's selling the Gerard Hutch. Is it memorabilia? I don't know.
Merchandise.
Merch,
I suppose.
He rings her up pretending to be a journalist from the Sunday World and asks her loads of questions, and in fairness, she gives as good as she gets. And she's funny, it is very funny now.
Yeah, it's really funny.
And she gives great answers, and
somehow
it ends up her. He's sort of saying, "Oh, you're a supporter of Hutch," and she won't admit to that, but she does say he has lovely hair, which I thought was quite amusing.
Well, he does have a lot of hair, in fairness to him.
But it's going to be the story of this by-election anyway, isn't it? And, it's Gerard Hutch is appearing again in all of the papers all of the time. Yeah,
and I suppose last year we did see this is a stall on Henry Street, and I did walk by and I almost bought you a t-shirt last year, because obviously this was before the general election where he almost got in, but this year now, because of the by-election, it's back up. So the stall is back up and running, and Eugene Masterson went down yesterday and spoke to one of the traders there, and they're not just selling t-shirts, they also have branched out to mugs and to wrapping paper.
Yeah.
So if anyone's short of wrapping paper, and he said that, so according to the street trader, he said Jerry's been up to visit the stall, have a look, and he's happy enough. And he said, we're doing a great trade in relation to Hutch's stuff. We've sold out of wrapping paper. We'll be getting more in.
Yeah.
So there you go. I know you're always one of those last minute shoppers.
Well, so. I might, I'll think about it.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
Yeah.
And what did you think of the deep Southside accent of the Sunday World reporter?
Yeah, I was going to say, were they trying to channel Nicola, or because I don't think anyone else in the Sunday World would be represented there.
I see Joanne McNally is getting slagged off for having that type of South County Dublin accent.
That actually did strike. I didn't know. That actually did strike me when I was listening to it. I was like, it doesn't sound like someone from the Sunday World.
No, they don't know that there's good proper people from Tala like yourself working for them.
Represent. And people from Cabra, Phibsborough, sorry.
Okay, well, thanks, Eimear.
Thanks,
and
Nicola. Thanks, Nicola. Thanks, Niall.
And we'll survive another week, Eimear.
Yes, hopefully, yeah.